Hello there, Simon Jackson here from the FastTrack Working From Home response. Today we've got Jhong who's joining us as one of the SMEs in our team, subject matter experts. And Jhong today is going to run through a presentation on security defaults. And just as proof of what working from home can look like, Jhong's on a machine that doesn't have video today. The camera failed. So it's a good example of some of the additional problems you can get from working from home. But Jhong, welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks, Simon. Hello, everyone.
Thank you very much for joining us. And Jhong, you've got a presentation, just a short presentation today on security defaults. Do you want to head off into that, mate?
Sure. Yep. So this is a 10-15-minute presentation, Max, which talks about the security defaults in Azure Active Directory. So essentially what it is the security best practices that Microsoft would recommend for each and every customer. Security defaults, though, is primarily targeted for the Office 365 E1 customers, SMB customers, because most of these customers wouldn't have the added features of Azure Active Directory Premium, where you could be more granular in configuring your security settings. So with that in mind, let me step through what security defaults is all about. So we're currently in a very unusual time now with COVID-19. So more and more customers are scrambling to move to the cloud, allowing users to be able to work remotely from home. But the challenges in this kind of situation right now is the hackers are actually taking advantage of this new change of work style. So as we could see in the news, there are more and more attacks targeting customers working from home, more of phishing attacks or password attacks that would try to compromise the account in the cloud and get access to their services in the cloud. So this is totally different from a traditional work scenario where the staff are working within the premises of their organization, well protected by their proxies and firewall.
Yeah, so I think we had an email ourselves internally, didn't we, Jhong, about phishing. The number of phishing attacks is going up extraordinarily.
Exactly. Yep. And that's going to continue to grow as more and more customers are working from home, connecting directly to the cloud services. So before I go through what security defaults is about, I'll just do a quick, recap on what those common attacks are. So first is phishing attack. This is more of a social engineering attack where the user is tricked by the attacker that it's being presented with a valid website with the goal of capturing the username and password of that user. Sometimes it would come as an internal communication coming from the organization, coming from payroll, for example, or it could be from third-party websites as well. So coming from Amazon, from other platforms where users would be entering their username and password. So for users connecting to the Office 365 services, we've seen a few attacks. Like there's one recently, Simon, I don't know if you remember, maybe 2 months ago, where it actually looks like an Office 365 login page.
Totally. It was totally believable. I think it almost fooled me, and I've been working in IT most of my life. It was very well crafted.
Yep. And we'll see a lot of those, continue to come in and, gather as much username and password that they can get. And after that, they'll collect it, maybe sell it, and then some attackers would try to infiltrate and log on to the organization's services and connect to their different workloads. The second common risk that we're seeing is what we call the password spray attack. So there's the brute force attack, which is pretty much just using different passwords for a single account. But what we're seeing right now is just spraying the same password for 100, 1,000, 10,000 users,
Is that
and
right?
eventually they'll get a success. Like, it's
Wow.
event specific as well. So it happened to us here in Microsoft when the Seattle Seahawks won the NFL championship, right? So they
Mm.
use a password that's related to Seahawks 2015, I think when that happened, and they've had a lot of successes when we've tested that password. So a lot of users actually use passwords that are specific to an event, right? It could be their
Mm.
birthday, it could be something that happened recently, right? You'd be surprised. You probably wouldn't be surprised if a lot of users would be using COVID as their password these days.
Mm. It's a good
But
point.
that's the strategy that they're employing right now, because with password spray, it's a lot more effective compared to brute force attack, because with brute force
Mm.
attack, with three failures, for example, it
Got a
would time
timeout.
out. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Whereas with password spray, they just do it in one go,
Hit it right.
and out of those 1,000, they might have a success rate of zero point 0.1, but still, that's still
Worth
successful
it.
attack for them. Yep.
Wow. So we're not quite as unique as we think we are. We're actually quite influenced by external events. And as you said, the COVID outbreak pandemic is probably likely to result in passwords that reflect that.
Mm, that's right.
Wow.
So, as part of of Microsoft's response to the COVID pandemic, we're um, providing Teams E1 licenses to our customers, right? So a lot of our customers would take this opportunity because they've got staff working remotely, working from home, and this would be the best platform for them. If they're on Office 365 already, then it's
Mm.
an easy enablement process. Really, just turn on Teams, right? The challenge here is because a lot of customers, especially the small, medium businesses, where they've got probably just one person who's doing IT, right? Or that person could be doing other roles as well. So
Mm.
it's easy for that person to forget about security and just think about deploying teams in their environment. So by default, although we put in some restrictions in our Office 365 Azure Active Directory environment, it's restricted, it's secured by default, but there are things that we don't lock down, which we think may impact some of the usage scenarios. But
Mm.
our recommendation is, when deploying a workload like Teams or any other workload, is to make sure that um, to keep security in mind as well, not as an afterthought
Yeah.
past the deployment of the workload.
Yeah. Don't do it after. Plan for it before.
Correct. Yep. And this
Mm.
is the goal of this presentation as well, is to make sure that when we're recommending teams to our customers who's got E1, is to make sure that they turn on security defaults at a minimum. And then
Mm.
if they want to do more granular changes, then they'll probably need additional licenses for it. So they could either go E3 or E5, or get just AADP add-on. But with
Mm.
E1 alone, the only way to lock down their environment is to turn
Default.
on security defaults. Yep.
Mm.
So what's security defaults? So essentially, this is what we're providing our customers free of charge, right? So we used to have what we call security baseline policies, but
Mm-hmm.
that's now being deprecated, and this is now the replacement. Essentially, it provides the same protection. So the only main difference there is, with based on policies before, there are different settings. It's a bit more complicated, I guess.
Mm.
Whereas with security defaults, it's just a switch that you need to turn on,
Set
and
and
then
forget.
yep,
Mm.
pretty much, yeah.
Nice. That's a good approach.
And the goal for this is, because we know that phishing and password spray, password replays, those are the most common attacks
Mm.
that we're seeing.
Mm.
It protects our customers from those. So I'll do a quick demo on how it works.
Please. Don't blink. What's that about, John? Is this just
Exactly.
how fast it is?
Exactly. So when the customer logs on to their Azure portal,
Mm,
all they have to do is click on properties,
yeah,
which where I am right now, and
yeah.
that's where security defaults is.
Wow.
And then just click next,
Yes.
done. That's pretty much it.
Okay, that's cool. Right.
So after that, um, behind the scenes, what that setting just did is it enabled multi-factor authentication for all users and admins, right? So these users could still log on up to 14 days without
Mm,
MFA, but once that
mm.
expires, they'll be asked for they will have to finish their MFA enrollment, and next time they log on past 14 days, they'll have to use MFA.
99.9%. So virtually all of accounts compromised by phishing could have been stopped by simply using MFA.
Correct. Yep. Because with
Wow.
MFA, because with phishing, they get the username and password, right?
Mm.
But if you've got
There's
that,
no use to them if you've got MFA.
correct. Yep.
Wow,
So
that's
that's a lot
huge.
of value already, just
Mm.
for MFA.
One
So that's
button.
correct. The second thing
Mm.
that it does is it disables legacy authentication, because we know the password spray attacks are being done on the legacy authentication. So it's not modern authentication. It's just using legacy authentication. Things like Exchange Active Sync, Windows Basic Authentication, those kinds of
Right.
things where it doesn't require modern authentication. That's what the password spray attack is targeting. So that's
Mm.
all got to be disabled, and that's pretty much going to stop the password spray attacks. And then the third thing is all the privilege actions, like when you log into Azure portal, when you run the Azure PowerShell or the Azure command line interface,
Mm.
it require MFA.
Mm. Which makes perfect sense for those sort of actions.
Yep.
Should have
Because those
MFA
are
on them.
high privilege admin type of actions, right?
Mm.
So those
Mm.
actions are going to be secured with MFA.
So this is all going to be turned on just by clicking
Yep.
one selection.
I was just going to say
Correct?
that
Yep.
this is
Wow.
our recommendation, right? To turn this
Yeah.
on, all of this, to make the
Yeah.
environment a lot more secure.
This is just a real simple way to do it.
Correct. Yep.
In terms of user impact on users, things like MFA being turned on straight away, is there something we need to prepare for? I mean, obviously, the very first point is to be secure, right? So that's just kind of a no-brainer, isn't it? You just want to be secure first up, then you start communicating. Is there any impact to users, for example, for turning on MFA or disabling legacy authentication? Obviously, it's worth it, but what sort of preparation or comms or change should we expect from this?
Good point. Yeah. So there's an element of user education there, because it's gonna change the way they would log on.
Mm,
And we don't want to surprise the users as well, that something would pop up that's something different from what they're
mm.
used to. So exactly. So if there's user communication prior to enabling it, then that would be the best way to go.
Although you'd think, well, I don't know. That's an open question, isn't it? Because you want to be secure. You've got to be secure, particularly when we've seen a big uptick, as you mentioned before, in phishing attacks. The first thing is to be secure. Second thing is to deal with users. If we had more time, if the problem wasn't so important, we could just take our time and send lots of communications, etc. But to make this so easily and readily available, just turn it on and then perhaps deal with the exceptions might actually be a much better way of doing it than to wait and to
Leave
risk
it open.
someone. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly, and risk someone getting into your network.
Yep.
Mm.
Sorry.
Wow. Great, yeah, great presentation. What a great idea. I had no idea that's what security defaults for. I imagined a screen with lots and lots of buttons and tick
Lots
boxes
of
and check
decision
boxes.
making.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's right.
Yeah, it's
And this
pretty
is just
simple.
like, boom,
Yep.
done.
That's it.
Mm,
And I guess that's pretty much it for security defaults, right? I guess for next steps, if they want to have a more granular
mm,
conversation, so we've got two workshops in FastTrack. So the Microsoft Security Conversations, which is probably a 30-minute to 1 hour workshop. And then we've got more, I guess, in-depth discussion on security, which is the identity and device security workshop, which we'll talk about the secure score, the rating of their tenant, the security rating of their tenant, and then the Microsoft Golden configuration, which goes into the different security levels that the customers can adopt.
And some other references here, mate, for further reading.
That's right. Yep. So just the link there for the security defaults in our docs page, the Microsoft Golden configuration, Microsoft 365. Oh, this is a pretty good one, the CISO's desk. So this is, I'll just show you how this looks like because it's pretty cool, right? The way they presented it. So it's like a CISO's desk. So, and there's a lot of information, a lot of resources in
That's
here,
awesome.
videos, guidance, like defend against threats, talks about what threats are available, right?
That's very cool.
And how you address those. Talks about protecting business data. It's an excellent resource. Like, I mean, it's a complex topic, but the way they've presented it, it's more, I guess,
very engaging. It's
engaging.
a really
That's the one.
nice way to look at it. I love the due for an upgrade. It's an old cassette tape. I used to have one.
Exactly.
Like
Yep. But yeah, that's an excellent.
All the other CXOs are now going to be calling out for something that looks that good. That is really, really neat. And for everyone else, I'll put the links in link format in the comment section below, so in the details of this presentation, so that you can just click straight through. That top 12 tasks is another good one, Jhong. I think I've sent a couple of customers that way.
Yep.
And there's finally our scope and benefits, right?
Correct. Yep. That's it. Quick and easy.
Well done. I like it. One button. We're going to boil all this down to a single button.
Yep.
Great presentation, Jhong. Thank you so much for sharing this with us today, and thank you for your time, mate. Okay, so that's it for the show today. As I said, the links will be in the description of this video. If you need to get in contact with me or with Jhong, contact details will be here as well. Please let me know, and we can connect you with the subject matter experts like Jhong in the FastTrack Centre. Thank you very much for your time today, Jhong, and a great presentation. Really great idea. Thank you so much, and thank you all for watching. See you, mate.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.